Hi there, Michelle Klein here, real estate agent with Long & Foster. I am on the Annie Hall group under the Art Hurling team out of Bluebell, Pennsylvania. We have offices all across Montgomery and Bucks County, and today I am going to talk about landscaping in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. Specifically, I have been living and gardening and landscaping in Warrington, Pennsylvania for probably about 15 years. So the blog that I wrote this week has to do with the companies that I have personally used. And I just want to tell you that I am just a happy customer sharing my experiences. These companies that I talk about, I'm not affiliated with them, and I do not get any compensation whatsoever from them. I have no connection other than being a happy customer, sharing my personal experience. So I'm going to talk about who I've personally used, and I'm going to share what plants have worked really well for me in my home and how much sun they get, where I'm situated, and any tips that I might have. I started landscaping my home in stages and continued doing it that way until I felt that it was complete. So I started with the front landscape, which obviously is the first thing you see and the most important thing for curb appeal. So every time I pull up to my home, every time somebody else comes to my home, that's what they see. That's what their first impression is of my home. And so it has paid me back many times over, because what you see on the outside reflects what's on the inside, and that enjoyment that I get from seeing it is everything I need to pay back my investments, because landscaping is an investment. It is a costly and time-consuming investment. There are costs associated whether you do it yourself, which I have done, whether you hire a company, which I have done. And there is time investment, because you do have to care for the plants, even if someone else plants them for you. Like a landscaping company, they still need water, they still need weeding, which the weeding and the trimming can be outsourced to your landscaping company, but the watering can't be. So that first year that a new plant is put in the ground is really important and crucial to the plant's longevity and health. And that's all on you, the homeowner. So it is a bit time consuming, because different plants need different amounts of water, but all plants in the beginning of their life as a new transplant need a lot of watering, especially in our hot summer months that we get here in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. So I did it in stages. I started with my front landscaping, like I said, because that's the big pizzazz of the curb appeal. Then I did some side landscaping because I personally just love flowers, and that's where I get full sun. So that was just a personal project for myself, which has added to the curb appeal of my home as a added bonus. Then we moved on to the backyard, because we have a fence line along the back and two sides of our backyard. And so the back fence line has a line of trees that creates a privacy screen. And then the sides of the yard are fenced with split rail fencing. And I just wanted to soften the look of that split rail fencing. So we did one long side first and the other long side next. Again, because it's a bit of a financial investment, and doing it in two stages just felt better on, our pocketbooks. So I've gone through it. I've done it. Some of the plants have survived. Some of them have had to come out and be replaced because they didn't make it. So I've done the failures, I've done the successes, and I'll share with you what has worked. And if you have any questions at the end of this video, go to the contact me on my webpage, which is at www.michelleklein.realtor. which is also where you can find the written blog about landscaping in Warrington, Pennsylvania, Bucks County. Or you can just comment on this video and I'll try to keep tabs on that as well. If you do get something out of this video, please like and subscribe. So what has worked best for me? I'll start, let me put my glasses on here. I'll start with the back line of trees because I've been able to use them as a great privacy screen. And what I have are thuja trees, which come in various varieties. Some of them are medium sized, some of them can grow quite tall. Green giant is one of them you may have heard of, and those are very, very tall. They receive full sun on my property. They have withstood some harsh winters, some heavy winds with heavy snow weighing down their branches. Not to say that I'm not scared every winter that I'm gonna lose one and have to fill a hole, but so far they have been strong and resilient. They are a treat that deer like to snack on. So ours are inside of our fence to prevent that because deer would rather stay outside of our fence and snack on things that are readily available. Not to say they can't jump our 4-foot fence, but they prefer not to. We have a lot of trees around and they just go elsewhere. Next up, I have listed our knockout roses. They bloom all season long. They require very little care as far as roses go. They do bloom best in full sun and can handle heavy pruning. So you really, if you're a starter and you want to put some beautiful pops of color in your landscaping beds, knockout roses, you can't really go wrong. Sometimes I clip some of them and bring them in and put them in a pot of water, and I have fresh roses in the kitchen. They're really a winner. Endless summer hydrangea, another pop of color. They can handle partial to full sun. If it's full sun, I do recommend not the strongest part of the day. Maybe in the late afternoon or evening being the time that it gets, that chunk of 6 to 7 hours of sun. Like the knockout roses, they can handle heavy pruning and they will bloom all season long. Depending on the acidity of your soil, they will be purple blooms or blue blooms. And you can adjust the soil to get the blooms that you want. They're a fun one. Again, deer love to snack on them. Some people wrap them up, cage them up to protect them from the deer. Next, I have forsythia, which is the easiest spring bloomer, I find. A nice large shrub, which can grow organically into a bit of a messy shape, or they can be hedged. They can be trimmed into more of a hedge, which is how I have them. I have forsythia along my back fence line, and once their blooms are spent, because you don't want to cut them before those buds have opened and you've enjoyed their beautiful burst of sunshiny yellow flowers. So once their blooms are spent, they are trimmed and they make a nice line of green leaves, a hedge that really just softens the fence line. They do like to self-propagate, so be careful about their branches touching the ground because they will root and expand into neighboring soil. And if you don't want them to do that, just keep them trimmed, keep the bottom parts of them trimmed so that they grow more of an upright position. Lilacs are also early spring bloomers. I have Miss Kim lilacs. They're compact and they love full sun. Their flowers grow in bunches and they smell so beautifully. When they bloom in the early spring, they are really quite nice to look at, but you can't walk anywhere near them without getting just a waft of their perfumey smell. The shrub stays an attractive color with dark green leaves and a somewhat round shape after the blooms are done for the rest of the summer. So they look beautiful even after the blooms have been spent. Holly shrubs, they grow in various sizes. They stay dark green and attractive year-round. I have some around 5 foot tall hollies framing my front porch. they get full sun, and they retain their stunning color all year long. Sometimes of the year they have little teeny tiny white flowers that bloom. You can't even notice them unless you're up close. And some time of the year they have those little red berries that hollies get. They're really a very attractive plant. Maples grow great in my yard here in Warrington. I have two different maples in my landscaping. I believe a Japanese and a Chinese maple. One is quite larger than the other. They have both been in the ground for 15 years. They enjoy full sun, and you can't go wrong with them. They complement a home beautifully. I have several trees on the property, flowering plum trees, Kwanzaa cherry trees, flowering pear trees. They all add beauty, shade, and height to any yard. The flowering plum is the most susceptible to disease, with the flowering pear being the most robust. That is what I have found in my experience. Of course, I do have maples as well that the builder of the home planted, and they thrive and do very well. I remember when those little plant hoppers, the spotted lanternflies, were all over the place. I was so afraid we were going to lose our maples, and my kids were out there hunting them down. We were scraping the eggs off of the trees to make sure that they wouldn't breed too many more the next season. And then poof, they sort of kind of disappeared from our area. Once in a while we still see one last summer, but nothing like it was a couple of years ago, a few years ago. So our maple trees are hanging in there and going strong. I have listed mountain laurel next. It's actually native to our area. They flower in the spring and they are evergreen. They keep their dark green leaves year round. They prefer part sun to part shade, but I highly recommend them. They bring beautiful interest to the yard, to any landscaping. I have a couple of Japanese cedars, and they are tall, upright, dark green, almost black leaves, and they grow their branches in a staggering pattern. So the ones I have are called Black Dragon, which is kind of the look that they give off because of those staggered branches. They can add nice dark upright height to a garden. If there's a Japanese inspired landscaping that you're going for, they would be perfect. But really it blends in. I don't have a Japanese inspired landscaping, and it blends in well with any landscape. They do like part shade to full sun. I have eunomyces. Evergreens can handle anything from part shade to full sun in our area. I have Silver King eunomys, and it adds interest to my fence line. It's kind of a light green, silvery touch in a sea of darker greens. So it's a really nice pop. They can be planted together in a row to create a hedge, to create a privacy hedge. They do tolerate poor soil and drought conditions quite well. Dogwood shrubs are easy to grow. I have the yellow twig variety in my garden, and it adds a nice pop of color to an otherwise drab winter garden. Viburnum is another native plant to Bucks County. They are many different varieties. I probably have 3 in my landscaping beds, and they are shrubs. They usually have some flowers at some part during the growing season, maybe some berries, definitely some berries during the growing season. And their leaves are attractive, and they grow upright, tall, full, wonderful for filling in a space. I have them along my other fence line. And there are how could I forget the deer-resistant Wigelia. I have wine and rose Wigelia in my landscaping, and they explode. In the late spring, they explode in pink trumpet flowers. And I mean, just covers every inch of the plant. I'll try to link some photos of these from my own garden because these really are a showstopper. I'll try to link some other photos from my garden also. They have purple leaves, which are attractive even when the trumpet flowers haven't bloomed yet, or once they're spent. It's really a beautiful shrub to have all throughout summer. It blooms best in full sun, and it's just a winner in my book. Now, from all those different suggestions I've made, you can see that there's a large variety of plants in my landscaping, and that's because you want to have some flowering, some non-flowering shrubs. You want to have differing heights to add interest. You want to have different colored leaves to add dimension. And you definitely want things that flower at different times of the season. And you definitely want to have some that are evergreen, something to add some interest to that winter garden when things are kind of drab and really brown. Something to still keep your garden alive, because even in the wintertime, we can enjoy our gardens. Now, for most of my landscaping, I have had K&K out of Warrington. K&K Landscaping has done most of my work. Not only do they know our area and they are professional, they always listen well to what I want. They have great suggestions and advice for what to plant and how to care for them. They are reliable. They always show up on time. The work is done on the timeline that is quoted. And importantly, if there's any issues after the plant's in the ground, they're there. You can give them a call. You can ask them for more help. They'll walk you through, and they stand by their products. That's why I have used K&K Landscaping. We've used them for multiple projects and keep going back to them. If you're a do-it-yourselfer or just trying to cut back on what you're spending on landscaping, then a local garden center is definitely the way to go. My favorite by far is Gasper Garden Center in Richboro. They have native plants, and the people who care for them, real live humans, are there to give you advice. They live locally, they care for the plants, they know the plants well. They can give you advice on how the plants will grow in the soil locally in Bucks County. What to do if you have an area that gets a lot of water. I had that question a few years back. I have a spot in my yard that gets a ton of water. It's just like the downward area where everything sort of drains, and plants weren't thriving there. And I knew which plant I wanted to put there. I wasn't sure if it could handle that much water. Asked the advice of the garden center person that was working there, and they told me how to build up the soil to make a bit of a berm so that the roots weren't sitting in soggy ground, so that it ran down a bit. And the new transplant would be able to deal with the stress of that area in my yard. Brilliant advice. And finally, I was able to have something in that area that I thought nothing was ever going to fit in. So that's just one example. Like I said, I get nothing from recommending those companies. I just have great experiences with them. Again, Gasper Garden Center does stand by their products 100%. What else can I tell you about landscaping? Landscaping in regards to real estate. It is the curb appeal of your home. It's the first thing a buyer is going to see if you're selling your home. If you are a buyer, it's the first thing you see on the Zillow listing when you look at the pictures, right? It catches your attention. It's important. It sets up how someone is going to think the inside of your home looks, or the pride you take in ownership. Sometimes it's as easy as freshening up your mulch, pulling out the weeds. Sometimes it's getting rid of some plants that are no longer thriving in your landscaping and putting something fresh and new. Sometimes it's just giving them a trim. and making everything look cohesive again. This is my real estate tip having to do with landscaping. If you are listing your home and you have great landscaping, which I know you do, or you're going to because you're watching this video, you're listing your home, putting it up for sale, be sure your agent captures fantastic photos of it. Like I said before, it is the first thing that buyers are going to look at when they look at the pictures on a listing website or when they drive by to see if the home is what they think it is. It's the first impression. We all know what first impressions are. They're extremely important. Be sure your agent captures fantastic photos of your landscaping, of your curb appeal. They should use a professional photographer who can use different lightings and times of day to show potential buyers what the curb appeal can look like at all different times. That's my real estate tip in regards to gardening and landscaping. Feel free to contact me for anything, whether it's garden related. I am a gardener for many, many years, and I come from a long line of gardeners. I have made lots of mistakes. I have a lot to learn, but I'd love to learn alongside new friends. So feel free to contact me with any follow-up questions about what I've spoken about or anything garden related, anything real estate related. Please feel free to contact me. Questions, if you need advice, if you need guidance, I am happy to talk all the time. And I do offer free market evaluations on your home. If you're just curious what your home could sell for in this crazy seller's market that we're in, I'm happy to put one together. It wouldn't be exact because I'm not going to be walking through your home unless you want me to. I'm happy to do so. But if you just want an idea, then I can send that over to you as well. I call that my free market evaluation. And it is a courtesy to anyone who would like to be put onto my email list and receive really useful data about the local market. Because that's what I do. I specialize in our local market and I help families find home, whether it's selling, buying, leasing, or maybe even starting to look into investment properties. Whatever your family needs are, in Bucks County and Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, I'm your girl. So contact me, go to the website, again, www.michelleklein.realtor, like and subscribe to this video, and thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.